Imagine sailing through a frozen ocean where the waves bite like knives and the air itself feels deadly cold. Now imagine doing it without a single flame to warm your body. No campfire, no glowing coals, just you, your people, and an endless wall of ice. The Inuit faced this challenge every time they went out on the sea. Their survival wasn't luck. It was knowledge, skill, and something that seems almost impossible today. So, how did they actually make it? The Inuit weren't wandering explorers like the Vikings. They were survivors, born and raised in one of the harshest climates on Earth. Their lives depended on the sea, hunting seals, walruses, and even whales. That meant braving icy waters daily. But unlike European sailors, they had no giant wooden ships, no warm cabins, and absolutely no way to light a fire on board. Their boats were light, skin-covered frames built for speed and survival. Still, they needed more than boats to live through these deadly journeys. For the Inuit, warmth came not from fire but from their clothing. Imagine wearing a full-body survival suit long before anyone invented one. Their clothes were sewn from seal and caribou hides, layered in ways that trapped body heat. Fur was worn inside for insulation and outside for protection against snow and wind. In a way, each hunter carried his own personal fire, a living furnace powered only by the skins of animals. Without these suits, they would have frozen solid within minutes. Their boats were just as ingenious. Kayaks for solo hunts and umiaks for families, both built from driftwood frames and covered with stretched animal skins. These vessels were light enough to carry across ice and strong enough to cut through waves. They weren't built for comfort, but for survival. A fire inside would have burned them instantly. Instead, the design focused on keeping the freezing water out. In the stormy Arctic, just staying afloat was already a victory. Still, clothing and boats weren't enough. Imagine being miles from shore, the sea turning wild, and the air so cold your breath froze in your beard. Without fire, how could they avoid freezing to death? The answer was as simple as it was powerful: each other. Inuit hunters huddled together under heavy hides, sharing body heat. On land, they slept shoulder to shoulder inside snow shelters. Fire might have been impossible, but human warmth became the one flame they could always carry. Instead of fire, the Inuit relied on fat. Seal and whale blubber wasn't just food, it was pure energy packed with calories. Eating it gave their bodies fuel to fight the cold, like throwing logs on a furnace. They even chewed frozen chunks of fat during hunts to keep their strength. While Europeans carried bread and ale, the Inuit carried slabs of raw survival. Fat was their invisible fire, burning inside them and keeping them alive when the sea tried to freeze them. Their bodies weren't the only thing fueled by blubber. They also used it in lamps when they were on land. These small seal oil lamps gave just enough heat and light inside igloos or tents, but never on boats. At sea, even a spark was deadly. Instead, their skin boats were made waterproof with the same fat. Hunters smeared grease on the seams so waves would roll off. The ocean couldn't drown them because they used the ocean's animals as armor. At sea, they had another secret weapon, the kayak. These one-man boats were so snug they worked like floating winter coats. The hunter was sealed into the cockpit with a skin skirt, so no water could enter. If the kayak flipped, he rolled it upright with a paddle before freezing water got in. This skill, called the Eskimo roll, was a lifesaver. Where a European sailor might drown in icy waves, an Inuit could vanish under the sea and rise again like nothing happened. But storms were their deadliest enemy. Imagine being in a tiny skin boat, surrounded by icebergs and waves taller than your house. No fire to comfort you, only the constant crack of the ocean. Many hunters never returned, swallowed by the sea. Yet, the Inuit accepted this risk. They believed every hunt was a battle of respect between man and nature. Survive, and the sea allowed you to live. Fail, and you became part of it forever. So, how did they actually stay alive in these conditions? Their greatest fire was not burning wood or glowing coals. It was human heat, fat for fuel, and boats built to bend instead of break. They turned survival into a science long before anyone used that word. Still, there's a question. What happened when night fell on the open sea, with no fire, no shelter, and only endless ice around them? The answer is even more incredible. Nights at sea were terrifying. With no fire to guide them, the Inuit relied on the moon, the stars, and their memory of the coastlines. They knew every curve of the Arctic shore, every current, every sound of cracking ice. Their senses became their compass. While European sailors carried maps and lanterns, Inuit hunters carried knowledge passed down from generations. In the darkness, silence was survival. The only light was the northern sky, where the aurora danced above frozen waters. But even the best knowledge couldn't stop the ocean from flipping a boat. Here's the incredible part. They trained to ride a kayak instantly after capsizing. In icy water, seconds meant life or death. This Eskimo role made them legendary sailors. No fire, no safety nets, just raw skill and practice. To Europeans, falling in meant death. To Inuit hunters, it was another move in their survival dance with the sea. That single trick saved more lives than any fire ever could. Their survival wasn't only about skill, it was also about tools made from the very animals they hunted. Harpoons, lines, floats, everything crafted from bone, sinew, and skin. These tools doubled as safety gear. Floats tied to harpoons could keep a seal from sinking, or even help steady the boat in rough waves. Each hunt was a gamble, but with gear like this, the Inuit tilted the odds in their favor. The ocean was harsh, but it also provided every weapon they needed. And then there was the fat again. Not only eaten, not only smeared on boats, but also rubbed onto clothes to keep water out. Imagine waterproof jackets before Gore-Tex even existed. This trick meant that freezing seawater rolled right off their furs instead of soaking in. The sea itself became part of their armor. Without this, hypothermia would have killed them fast. With it, they were untouchable, wrapped in an ancient technology that still amazes scientists today. Still, even the toughest hunters had to face the nightmare. Nights stuck on drifting ice. With no wood to burn and no fire to keep them alive, they built shelters out of snow itself. Tiny igloos or windbreak walls of ice blocks kept them alive until the storm passed. Side by side, they huddled together, sharing every bit of warmth. In those moments, the Inuit proved that survival didn't come from fire, it came from each other. When storms turned deadly, sometimes the only choice was to drag the boat onto ice and wait. Imagine standing on a floating island of frozen sea. No fire, no shelter but snow. Yet the Inuit turned even this into survival. They carved quick snow walls to block the wind, flipped their umiak upside down for cover, and wrapped themselves in furs. Where others would freeze, they created warmth out of nothing but snow, skin, and willpower. What truly kept them alive wasn't just tools or clothing. It was unity. Every journey was made as a group, each person's survival tied to the others. One hunter covered his brothers with hides, another steered, another watched the ice. They didn't sail alone, because alone you froze. Together, they became the living fire that kept hope alive. In the Arctic, teamwork wasn't noble, it was the only way to live. Centuries later, when European explorers tried to conquer the Arctic, they carried coal, lanterns, and wood, and still, many of them froze to death. But the Inuit had already mastered those same seas without a single flame. They thrived where others failed, because they knew survival was not about conquering nature, but working with it. The frozen seas weren't an enemy, they were home. Today, scientists still study Inuit survival methods. From their layered fursuits to their waterproofing tricks, they created technology centuries ahead of its time. Modern cold-weather gear borrows heavily from Inuit knowledge. Their boats inspired kayaks around the world. Their diet of fat is now recognized as one of the most efficient fuels for the human body in cold climates. Without fire, they became inventors of survival itself. The Inuit didn't light fires on the frozen seas. They didn't need to. Their fire was inside them, in their knowledge, in their teamwork, and in their courage. Where flames would have burned out, their spirit burned brighter. That's how they sailed the frozen oceans without fire. And that's why their story still inspires us today. The frozen sea tried to take everything. The Inuit gave it nothing but strength.